you're back. Well, thanks for joining us here at Golden Soul Studios again. Anyway, as you remember, we were making cubes last time for the art project we're working on, which is a tabletop art piece. And it's made out of little blocks and cubes. And you've seen this picture. If not, here it is again. Okay, so that's what we're shooting for. Sure, it's a rough sketch. We're still just basically playing with concepts and new designs and new ideas here. Sorry for all the background noise, a lot of cars, it's almost rush hour. Anyway, we're finished with the cubes, constructing the cubes. They're just drying and waiting for assembly at this point, and coloring, etc., etc. Anyway, I digress. What I've done is I've taken my little very basic cube template, put it on a page, drew it out compared to what I'm looking at here, my rough sketch, and put this down on paper. I know what I want my base to kind of look like, so what we've done is I've done some slabs. They're still drying, and I'm going to basically lay out and cut the inner base slab. So the inner base slab will be the part that actually sits on the tabletop that no one ever sees. We'll then build an armature on top of that, and then I will put a drape slab over the top of that that will represent the mountain or pinnacle that this will be sitting on. And so what we've done is we've cut our slab for that, and we're basically just have a slab, and we're going to bring it over here. So this clay is really wet. I rolled it out the other day, but I've kept it well protected from drying out because I didn't know what day I'd get back in the studio here. Anyway, I just basically took my paper, laid it over. I have a line on here where my inner slab's going to be, and I traced that line down onto the slab, and we're just going to cut that out. We want this to firm up so we can start making more parts. We're actually going to let both these parts firm up a little bit, because I can make from this part of the slab, which is separate from that part of the slab, parts to build for the inner armature of the cube project. And let me get a cutter. And voila, the cutter, which is just a needle tool. Alrighty. Alright, there we are. So that's basically it for a little bit. We're going to let this dry out more so we can start playing with it. Definitely need this to be firmer so I can make parts from that. Oh, welcome back. Just cutting up some pieces for the base we're building for what we're now going to call Blockhouse 1. So I have my slabs. I made them up the other day. They're now nice and firm. You can see that it's not drooping. Not drooping much. Anyway, it's pretty firm. This one's a little wetter, which is fine. So this is the bottom of the inside of the base, you want to call it. And what I've done with this is I've calculated, I've drawn a couple sketches on here of where, on the other side anyway, where the cubes are going to build up or be on top of the base. Now the base is going to be kind of like a hollow two-sided shell. It's going to have the bottom, it's going to have some supports, and it's going to have a clay draped over the top that doesn't quite touch the bottom or doesn't quite touch the ground. It's a nice effect. I like it a lot. These, and then we're going to just glue them on, if you will. Cast them onto the base that I have here, and then I'll be doing some more things to it until we get the whole interior armature built. All right, let's take a look at this. Cut that there. All right, put another one here. That worked out really well. Thing together. This one goes here. Now, if I'm smart, it makes a nice clean hole. And then we have to have something to poke it back out with. And that'll go there. Now you're probably wondering, well, what size should I make these? And it's have a better idea of how tall I would want to make these or not. But at this point, we're just eyeballing everything. We're just keep moving, get things made. When I go to put this outer piece on this, we considered like draping it over. So I'm kind of keeping that piece a little bit fresher. Don't want it to be so stiff. I don't want it to drape so much that it's full of divots, but I also don't want it to be so firm that it won't drape at all. Let's go ahead and put some of this together. And again, I've got my slip here and my brush that we let dry out every time, and that's just how it is. But I do mix up my slip a little bit more each time. I guess we'll use the brush this time. So here's my slip right now. It's pretty much, this part's wonderful, but I added some new stuff, so we're gonna have to work that in slowly, get it wet. If I really was in a hurry, I'd use my blender to do this, but we're not gonna use that much today, and by the time we get done, they'll be ready. The rest of it will be ready to use the next time. Got my handy scoring tool. And we're gonna go to town here. Score all the parts I'm gonna be using right away. Actually, I think that one goes there. I have it, yeah. A bit here, a little bit there, and then just work it in. So, I hope you guys can see that from over here. I won't really know until after I finish and check the video. But it's, you know, we're just doing simple stuff here. Yeah, this one's gonna go there. We have to do the bottom. Got that. I'm gonna get it all slimy with mud. Slimy with mud. Put that in. So again, it's pretty important that you work this a little bit if you can to get the platelets to line up for the clay so that it has really good adhesion, kind of, as we say, welded together at that point. And more slippy slimy. Yep, forgot this. Let's drive this part. I already did that. There we go. It's looking really good. So, and again, we'll work it back and forth a little bit. Try to get the air out of it. Try to get it nice and firm. Here we go. Here, a little bit there. You can see it's pretty quick once you kind of make up your mind what you want to do and where you're going to go with it. Gotta make sure you slime all the sides. All right. Now, I might spend, if I was working on a part that's going to show, I might spend more time making sure all of these parts are good and solidly connected and all that. But most of this will be underneath, and so if it cracks a little bit, that crack probably would not transfer to the outside. Highly unlikely. The drape clay that I put over the top of this piece that I'm going to drape over all this shouldn't transfer any of this from inside to outside. So anyway, we're going to finish this up here in a second. Alright, not quite the same height. How did that work out? Just swore I cut them all the same, but we're going to smash it down and make it the same height. Because what I really want to make sure is that where the cubes sit above this is level. So, because my cubes have been made several days now, and they're pretty firm, they're not adjustable. So I want to make sure that the foundation for those cubes is a flat spot on this piece of work. Alright, we're going to clean some of that up. Make it look like a good weld. Alright. Alright, a couple more here. Looks like this one's ready to go. So using this little texture tool I bought online, let me see if I can get real close with that. It has very light texture on it, and unfortunately it's pretty darn small. I really was hoping for something about 3 times bigger than this with deep texture on it. Anyway, I'm just putting some texture on this slab. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just rolling it on, trying to mix it up. Trying to mix it up because I want to put this over our armature that we built the other day, and I don't want it just to be smooth. I want it to look like, the messed up front yard kind of thing. So we're putting some texture on it. I'm sure we're going to mess with it some more when time comes, but and it's going to get pretty messed up just doing this work. So let's take a quick picture of this for you. And these are okay. I really don't know what they designed these things for. They're so small. They're for texturing clay. They're sold for texturing clay, but it's such a slight texture that I really can't imagine what you would texture that wouldn't get hidden. If it's a thrown piece, it's not going to be deep enough. It's not going to leave any, or whatever texture it does leave is going to be so light. And they have a whole bunch of them here, but yeah. I mean, I like them, and I'd love them if they were much larger and a deeper texture. But for what I'm doing, it's something. And I looked all over, Amazon for these kind of things, and you get what you get. Anyway, we're gonna goober this up with some slip. I've made my slip extra slippy today. Yeah, let's take a picture of this texture. Now I'm going to need to turn this over and scratch it up a bit, or score it. I'm going to use this gizmo here. Should have done this. I should have done this before I textured this side, but I thought about it, didn't get around to it. Get off the plastic here. Just kind of get her done. We're going to pick this up, set it on there, then work the edges. First, we're going to score all these guys. That all done. Now we're not going to score this edge here because eventually that's going to be a finished edge that slightly shows. Alright, just kind of working very quickly here. Now this is firmed up pretty good. It's still wet. Still got a lot of movement to it, but it's not limpy, you know. So we had it pretty firm to do the construction, and now that we're going to do this, it's even more firm. Making sure we got that out of the way. Well, welcome back. So normally I would have had a different piece of video here, but explaining the next step, but GoPro decided it didn't want to record that. So now I'm back in the studio later on that night with a mini maquette of what I've already done, which was build the base for the sculpture for Blockhouse 1. And so what I'm going to do is basically show you a mini version of what I did in the bigger version, and we'll jump back into that in a minute with the next segment of video. But it somehow GoPro decided it didn't want to save this segment where I took the clay slab and put it on the form, draped it on the form. So as you remember, we textured this slab with that roller, and we used our scoring tool, and we scored the heck out of the back of it. We then, this is an example of the base the way it was, and basically the base is a slab of clay with an armature, which you've seen pictures, or here's another picture of that. Okay, so now we saw what the base is, and what we're doing now is we're just gonna score these little business here, and we're gonna drag a slab on top of this. We're gonna put a bunch of slip on this first. We're going to put a lot of slip on here just to make sure that we've covered all our bases, so that no matter what, that's good and stuck. Even though we don't know exactly where our pattern is on this, it doesn't really matter. We've scored the entire thing. We're going to drape it on here and leave it in that spot, and then we're going to manipulate and tuck in the edges. So what we're trying to accomplish with this is basically a pinnacle of rock, is the feeling I want to have out of this. A pinnacle of rock that's actually floating above the base. So this draped clay will not touch down here. It will actually end before that, and you'll see in the full-scale version. But I wanted you to see what was missing from the full video, so you get an idea of what we did. Now in the one that's the full video, in the actual Blockhouse 1, this is all flat for us to be able to put blocks on it. And this one, we're just making a rock. All right, we're going to just take our pretty flexible, you can see how flexible that is. We just drape that on there, and we're going to press it down. Now, we're not trying to press too hard because we don't want to do this with the surface. So we're doing a little bit of being gentle. We're going to eyeball this. We're going to start trimming off the excess and moving it around, trying to get it to come down. Yeah. And that's all we did with the other one. Now we kind of want it to go and come back in a little bit, but we've pre-cut our armature underneath to kind of do that. So we're able to do that. And the clay is not that stiff. This particular slab is pretty wet, and sometimes where it wants to do folding up, I let it fold up because that's now going to make an interesting rock shape. And we're gonna mess with it. We're gonna just be wild and crazy. We're trying not to be predictable. We're trying not to be normal. We're trying everything we can to be organic in our movements here, because excuse me, the more organic we are, the more natural the rock might look. You know? So I'm gonna keep cutting off more, because when we're done here, we're gonna just keep going around and around, doing it more and more until I get to what I want to be, and we're gonna get to a point where it's gonna, I'll have to wait and let it firm up more, I guess I would say, because it's just a little bit too wet, but that's fine. Allows me to play with this quite a bit. Trim off excess. Because what I'm trying to do is, when it's all said and done, I want to see this down below it, but not tremendously. I don't want to see all of that. I want to, if I get down here, I want to see it, but if I'm standing here, I don't want to see it. It's kind of what I thought when I built that other one. I can even take pieces and just jam things on there, you know? Boom, I'm getting a rock. I'm getting, oh, look at that, that's a rock. And the more we play with it, the more we cut into it, the more we do things to it, without trying too hard, I guess you could say, is the more natural it's going to look. The more art by accident we go, you know. There we go. Now, one thing's for sure is that I can see where my high points are. I can see where my armature is. I'm going to press down a little bit on that. I'm going to make sure that that's good and attached in those locations. And you can see we're kind of getting some natural things going on here. We're going to take our knife. We're going to start cutting into this a little bit. Cut up like that. Now, once this dries up a little more, we'll do more to these areas, and we'll work it until we're happy with what's going on. On the piece we didn't really do much on top, because that's kind of what's meant to be like the front lawn of the house. So, but over here, where it's kind of over the cliff kind of thing, we're just doing and actuating and doing stuff, and we'll come back in a little while and, like I say, clean these up. Yeah. So, like I say, where it's folded, does that really mean it's wrong? No, it's not really wrong. There isn't a wrong. Wrong is that if we're done, it just doesn't look that great. So that's kind of a brief explanation of the part of the video that disappeared, and I'm hoping this is going to be there. And so let's go ahead and jump back into the next phase, and what you'll see is basically this part's finished, and we're doing some of the touch-up of the texturing and a close-up shot of the texturing on that part, and that base will then harden up a little bit and be ready for the blocks to be installed on it. But here we go. I'm also going to include a couple of pictures of the four sides and static, you know, of the new base and all that. Not so much of this. This just gives you an idea of what we were doing and how we got there. All right.